Police officers and first responders wear badges to let their communities know they are here to protect and serve. But it comes at a price. Samantha Horwitz and John Salerno work with police departments across the country to bring valuable recovery, insight resources, and workshops. A Badge of Honor TV brings those professionals to you so we can come together and revitalize communities through a better understanding of what's at stake and what's required for repair. So take a load off and turn up your TV. It's about to get real.
Hey, welcome to A Badge of Honor TV, powered by the OBBM Network. It's Mental Health Monday, and you're listening to John and Sam. Well, welcome, Sam. How you doing?
Hey, doing great. You know, I feel like we have to start out today just with an apology to all of our viewers, our subscribers. First of all, thank you for sticking with us this past month. It has been, John can tell you, nothing short of the ultimate in frustration behind the scenes, getting everything back up and running. As you guys know, we are a nonprofit, a Badge of Honor, and we come to you live every Monday to further the mission of what we do to smash the stigma surrounding, PTSI. And with that came a couple of changes that we needed to look at. And well, those changes sucked. I'll just be blunt. So apologies, especially to our Instagram audience, because that was all kinds of messed up each week. And I know that Facebook went down, Rumble went down. So, to everybody watching on OBBM network.tv, if you're watching through your Roku and watching live and the Dallas media, we are so sorry, but we are back and stronger than ever. If it's not broken, don't fix it. And so huge shout out to StreamYard, love it, hate it, whatever. They've been loyal to us, so we are loyal in return to them, and they don't screw things up.
No, so, it's navigational. It's very easy,
robust,
and it's good for us.
Yeah.
Sam, I want to say you did an amazing job, and I'm gonna give a big shout out to Pam Barragan with 2200 Taps. You did an excellent interview. You were on their podcast. I saw it today. It was amazing. I don't know when it hit social media, but if you have a chance, check out 2200 Taps with Sam and Pam.
I love it.
It was a really heartwarming interview. You did a fantastic job, so I want to give you kudos on that.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, partner. I appreciate that.
No, it was very I've heard your story many times, and every time I hear it, it still hits me emotionally. So thank you for everything you did and what you went through.
Well, you're welcome. It's my pleasure to serve. And I think the different mediums where you tell your story, because when it's you, like on your story, it's you and Pam, and the atmosphere that is created, it lends itself to the message getting across. And Pam does great, making clips and everything through the stories. So it was an absolute pleasure to work with her. And kind of along the same lines, we have our guest tonight who is, if you are listening to any podcast related to first responders, mental health, dispatch, whatever, EMS, Deb's probably been on it. She is a huge mental health advocate. She is a retired dispatcher. Dispatch, it took a long time for them to get the credit as being first responders. Yeah. And for those of us that, we're in the profession, it's like, well, hey, we don't get there without them first.
Right.
So truly, they are the first. They are answering the phone on somebody's worst day. So John, if you're ready, I'd love to.
Yeah, but before we just shoot up, another thing I want to do is I want to shout out. Not a shout out, but I want all our politicians and our chiefs of staff to really evaluate your departments right here in Texas. And our thoughts and prayers go out to the families of the 4 Texas deputies within the last 6 weeks have taken their own lives. Now that's not an epidemic. That's a huge problem for me. You know, when we see that happening, that means something's going wrong within a department. Something's going wrong within the structure when we're losing our first responders. That many cluster in one state. So,
and I do believe that's Harris County, if I'm not.
Was it, I think it was all Harris County. Yeah.
Yeah. So, hey, Dan Crenshaw, if you're listening, all right, you're a veteran. You understand the problem here. Let's get on it.
Yep.
You know, amongst other things that he needs to do. But, you know, we're not a political show, but you need to get on it.
Yeah, someone needs to get on it.
Yeah. So, well, let's talk about a person who preaches. Let's get on it by bringing Deborah Green to a Badge of Honor TV. Welcome, Deborah.
Hi.
To the show.
Hey, Deborah.
Thanks for having me. This is great.
Absolutely. You know, before we dive into your to what you're doing now, just tell everybody watching and listening on their favorite podcast app about you.
About me. Okay. I was born and raised in Sacramento, California. I joined the California Army National Guard in 1986. So I'm one of the OGs.
There you go.
I was hired by Sacramento Police Department in 1992 as a dispatcher, and then by El Dorado County Sheriff's Office in 1994 as a dispatcher, where I finally retired in 2021 due to PTSI. Wow. I have a lovely husband, 5 wonderful children, and 10 grandchildren. So there you go.
Wow. So you've seen it from in the boots on the ground.
Yes.
To behind that dispatch board where the visuals now turn into those frightening sounds of horror.
Yes.
You know, which really gives you a different perspective, gives everybody a different perspective, because you know what closure is all about and what our dispatchers do not go through. So you are the forgotten voices of most of law enforcement up until recently.
Well, and I consider us the first responders.
Yes.
And also the forgotten first responders.
Yeah.
Because we're always the last thought. Oh my gosh, we forgot about them, you know. So it's a difficult job to have, but the rewards from it were just so wonderful. I mean, it just being able to serve the public in a way. I don't know how to explain it. It's just very rewarding.
Well, I mean, you said it. You are the first. So when somebody is having their worst day, you're the one that's picking up the phone to dispatch, you know, police, fire, and everything else that's needed. And you know, with that lack of closure, it kind of leaves, from what we've heard, and by talking to other dispatchers, sometimes it leaves you spiraling because your imagination just goes all over the place. You said you retired because of PTSI. Thank you for calling it PTSI, because it truly is an injury to your brain that can be repaired. You know, can you talk a little bit more about that?
So I had a diagnosis of what they call PTSD, but it's really an injury. In my diagnosis was in October of 2020, from an incident that occurred a year prior in October of 2019, where I listened to the gunfire that killed one of my deputies.
Oh,
oh wow!
But I also have the diagnosis of compound or complex PTSD, also from almost 30 years of trauma after trauma after trauma, and not being able to process any of that trauma, and not really knowing that they were traumas. You know, you don't realize that. We came from a generation that recognized mental health as a weakness rather than an injury like it is.
Right.
Yeah. And we still have, unfortunately, we still have leadership that doesn't understand that at all. You know, we've got to take our first break. If you're just joining us, we're talking with Deborah Green. She is a veteran as well as a retired dispatcher, and she's here to share a lot of wisdom, not only with those that are looking to go into dispatch, maybe you are a dispatcher, and she'll give you the outlet and the understanding of what you need to be successful in your career. So we'll be right back, everybody, after these messages.
Forget Zoom, try Meetin. Meetin is a brand new video meeting service. And not only is Meetin simpler and easier to use and more powerful, Meetin also has the right values. Here at Meetin, we believe in freedom. We believe in privacy. We believe in America. And we are apolitical. Now, to get your free forever version of Meetin, just go to Meetin.com, spelled this way. And then where it says promo code, type in the word special. That's your promo code. Okay? So go to Meetin.com, type in the word special, and you'll get Meetin free forever. I'm Rick Raditz, and I look forward to serving you as a customer of Meetin.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam, and our very special guest, Deborah Green, who is a veteran military police, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who had boots on the ground, and now a veteran dispatcher. You know, before we left, we were talking about, and I don't want to open up old wounds, but we kind of discussed this, and this kind of made me think about what you guys actually go through, and I want our audience to feel that same thing. You said you heard the gunshots that took the life of one of your officers. Mm-hmm. Now, I want everybody to sit in their room who's watching our podcast and think about gunfire going off in your living room right now and you not being able to do anything about it. You know, here Deborah had boots on the ground. So she is somebody who's going to jump into the action and serve and protect. But being the dispatcher, she cannot do that. So I can't imagine the feeling you went through. Like, you want to get up and go, right?
Oh, absolutely. I wanted to just rip my headset off and drive my car out there, but it just doesn't happen. So you have to do the best that you can. And my part in that was coordinating everything to get help out there to fix that situation.
Now, once that's completed, and this is another thing that I don't agree with, is once that's completed, it's okay, Deborah, take the next call. Like, right. Nothing happened. You're on to the next. Hey,
yeah.
Kids making noise in my backyard, or a noise complaint, or a burglar complaint, and it's supposed to be like nothing ever happened 5 minutes ago.
Exactly. And what people don't realize is we're not like the guys on the street where we only take 5 to 10 calls a night. You know, on a busy night, maybe a busy department, maybe 20 calls during a shift. My record, I guess you would call it, would be an entry of 100 calls, just entering them as calls for service in an 8-hour shift when I worked at Sacramento Police Department.
Wow. Now
imagine not every one of those entered calls was, I mean, I had 100, but I answered more phone calls than that. Right. During that shift. So you're not allowed to process any of this. You know, my very first 911 call was a woman who had found her daughter who had committed suicide in the bathroom.
That was your first?
That was my very first 911 call.
How long ago was that?
30 years ago.
So here you go, folks. Immediately, Deborah, boom, right back to her very first call. Some of us are like, you know, John and I have been out for a while. We're like, what did we do yesterday?
Well, I still do that too.
But that's
you
what I
know,
like.
and
That's
hearing that anguish and then going on to your next call, which could be somebody complaining about somebody parking in front of their house, or that 3-year-old that's calling 911 that is playing with mommy's phone.
How do you as a human being, because you're not a robot, how
Right.
do you transition from such a horrific call to now a noise complaint without really like losing your mind on that person, going, are you kidding me? You know, I
You
can't
learn
imagine that roller coaster ride.
you learn to disassociate. I don't know any other way to put. Yeah, I mean, you're
Yeah.
just kind of like, okay, we got to throw that over here and deal with that later. You know,
What-
you don't have
what
time.
is going on when you say disassociate, just for a little bit of a deeper understanding, like what is going on, or are you talking to yourself to change your mental state to move on, or can you
kind of, I don't know how to explain it exactly, but you kind of become another person when you're. So I was dispatcher Debbie, you know, I was there, I was doing dispatch. And then, you know, afterwards I could be just Debbie.
Mm.
But you get into that, even being a cop on the street, I mean, during that shift, you put up that facade. And that's what you have to do as a dispatcher, to deal with one after another, after another, after another.
I would say though, and as we talk in our workshops, that, you know, the officers or the deputies, you know, when they're finished at that scene, whatever it is, they're getting in their vehicle and they can take a deep breath,
Right.
or 2 or 3 or 10, right? That's not the case for dispatch.
Yeah. And you know, you're finishing that call, you're answering the other one. A lot of dispatch centers are extremely understaffed, so there's no time at all to even take a break sometimes. You know, especially if you have a department that has 2 or 3 people working a shift. I mean, where are you going to get that time to take a break and go outside? We were lucky at El Dorado that we made sure we got our breaks.
So like, Deborah, you know, we do this in our workshops. We talk about breathing and shaking stuff off, right? But you guys did what, 12-hour shifts?
We did 12-hour shifts, yes.
You did 12-hour shifts. So after a shift like that, are you at least able to just, I mean, after a job like that, can you get up and just burn off some energy by walking around or anything? Or you just go, you're in that seat, you got to take the next one?
We were lucky enough to have a department that gave us time for wellness. So we had an hour during our shift that we could go down and work out. And I made sure to take advantage of that. I don't know if
what I
familiar
was saying
with,
is like what Sam was saying, the deputies or the sheriffs can get in their car, take a deep breath, or they can shake it off. They can walk around their car. They can punch their car if they want. They can do that and release some of that frustration.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you don't have that.
I can't do it right away. I could, you know, you know, a lot of times that I would cry on the way home just to release some of that. You know, you cry on the way to work because you're anticipating that. I was lucky enough to be able to take an hour and go down and have a good walk during my shift. And then I made sure to walk during my breaks just to get outside, get some fresh air, clear my head a little bit.
So was this at both departments, Sacramento and the
not so much at Sacramento. Okay. I mean, we would have breaks and I would go outside. I was smoking at the time, so I go out and have a cigarette, have a quick drink, go to the bathroom, and run back in.
Okay, that's not enough time.
No, but at least you landed in a department that understood, hey, the brain needs some decompression time to process.
But even then, it was still, if you can't handle it, why are you here?
Right.
You know,
that was back in the early 90s.
Back in the 90s, you know, mental health wasn't talked about. It was
Yeah.
So we're getting better.
Well, we want to definitely talk about, you know, what's getting better and the changes that you've seen, but also the importance of, if you have the brakes built in, what do you do on them to kind of release and then prep yourself to go back in? We got to take our next break and we'll come back and answer that question. Stay tuned, everybody.
Look, when you need to respond to an aggressive situation to protect yourself, your family, or your property, understanding your firearm and legal position are critical. Officers know your skills are only as good as your commitment to training. So know what you're doing. So when you're in a vulnerable situation, we can count on your response. Whether you're a beginner or a licensed gun carrier, Carry in Texas offers basic firearms training, Texas permitless carry courses, license to carry, and basic 2A courses so you can understand the responsibilities, situational awareness, and learn the technical skill required when you carry your firearm. Go to carryintexas.com to find the right course for you. Join me, former United States Secret Service agent Samantha Horwitz, on the range for beginner basics, LTC prep, and range practice. Go to carryintexas.com today. That's carryintexas.com.
Hey, welcome to a Badge of Honor. Welcome back to a Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam, and our guest, the veteran military police and dispatcher Deborah Green. Before we left, we were talking about releasing energy during our shift, and we all, as law enforcement officers out on the street, we have our little things that we release from stressful situations. In dispatch, especially back when Deborah did it, they did not have that chance to release anything. They were, from one call to the next, and you said, Deborah, over 100 plus calls a shift, right? So that is one hell of a roller coaster ride that you're on for those 12 hours. And I can't even comprehend, and I'm sure Sam's the same way, how you got through your daily routines and try to de-stress.
Yeah, during the day, during the work day, it was kind of hard. The weekends were a lot better, and I tried to do things that weren't cop related. I did a lot of knitting and crocheting and sewing. We had my husband and I would take like day trips around Northern California, which was just to get out. We go to the beach, go to the mountains, just take a drive somewhere. We would also stay with my in-laws at their cabin, which was nice because there was no internet, there was no phone. We just disconnected for a while. So that was some of the ways that I was able to get through the first 20 odd years of my career.
But, once people find out, and it's like any part of law enforcement, when people find out what you do for a living, they are naturally curious.
Yes.
So the conversations come up. So did you have any crazy calls? You don't want to be rude, and you don't want to say, I don't want to talk about it. Is that kind of like a release when you talk about it with people that don't know, or is it more of a stress?
It can be stressful, but letting them know what it's really like too. It's not that fantasy job that you see on TV. But we have shows like 911 now, and that are bringing dispatchers to the forefront to show that, we are taking crazy, stressful, traumatic calls, which is really nice. There's a couple of other shows that are more reality shows that they go actually into the centers and show them what dispatch is doing, and kind of giving them our perspective where we don't have that visual. We have to make everything up in our heads.
Exactly. And that's part of that PTSI,
Right.
injury and the journey. I wanna before I forget to touch on for folks that are listening who either are dispatchers that don't have tools that to use, or breaks, or a lot of breaks that afford them the opportunity to decompress. What would you say to the dispatchers currently that maybe have a short break time? What can they do on that break time to decompress, to let a little steam out, and then come back to the phones?
Going outside and screaming, that's always a good one. Take a walk outside. If you can't get outside, meditate. Meditation is great. There's plenty of things on YouTube that have like a directed meditation that are like 3 to 5 minutes that, you can kind of get that out. Find hobbies that aren't work related. Don't go out shooting. That's work related. Kind of go out and find something to do. Enjoy your kids.
Well, you know what? Shooting's better therapy than the kids sometimes. I got to tell you that right now.
Yeah, I was going to say there's something called, group therapy or lead therapy that's quite helpful. What is your suggestion on? I mean, you do this pretty much every day now. Is talking to other dispatchers.
Talk to dispatchers. There's great online support groups for first responders and veterans out there. So on your day off, you can hook up with people online and talk, and people that get it. I think that's one reason I'm bringing my friend group back together again, but I lost a lot of friends because they just didn't understand the work hours, the shift work, the career I had chosen. It's not your normal career path.
It's not your Monday through Friday 9 to 5 job.
Right. So just kind of, getting to talk to people across the country that the support group that I'm in, and we have 3 dispatchers, and we become really close, and I can talk to them when I'm having a bad day, even now. And, they'll understand why I'm having that bad day.
The one thing, if you like Sam said about how people can decompress, but how about to the dispatchers? You were diagnosed with PTSI in 2021?
2020. Yeah.
2020. You started your career back in 1992. I mean, yes. 1992. We're in 2020. Ooh, yeah. It's funny saying 1992.
Exactly. I know.
I'm like, did I just go a century? No, 1992.
Oh my gosh.
So, that's a long span. And, I'm sure the post-traumatic stress hit you within your first year. And you didn't know it.
Probably.
Right? When did you realize something's wrong?
So in 2015, I had open heart surgery to replace a valve. And I developed it's called post-perfusion syndrome that occurs when you go on to bypass. And it kind of amplifies any pre-existing mental health condition that you have by 10. So I developed extreme depression, extreme anxiety, plus having the PTSI from the physical injury that I had. Because, they're ripping your chest open and manhandling your heart,
Do you think the PTSI was a contributing factor to the heart issue?
No, I had a genetic condition.
Oh, genetic.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was born with this.
It probably didn't help the recovery, though.
Right.
No, not at all. And so I had some great friends at dispatch that kind of had an intervention in 2015 and said, you need to get help. So I went and started down the mental health journey then. But I wasn't officially diagnosed with PTSI then, which I should have been. I was hitting all the symptoms. So, it didn't come to light until after my incident in 2019.
Well, you have some smart dispatch friends.
I have some dispatch friends. Let me tell you.
It's interesting. When we come back from our next break, we'll talk about this, because when we talk to law enforcement, you'll see the dispatchers kind of look at each other. It's like, okay, we talk on the phone all day. You guys talk on the radio all day. What's the problem here? Where it seems like you guys don't have a problem talking about, hey, are you okay? This seemed to upset you, versus, the officers, which is like either zip it and never talk about it, or it's way, after their career. So why don't we touch on that when we come back from our next break? Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back after station identification.
Leftovers again? It's time for something we haven't had in a long time. It's time for something right. It's time to make the right choice. OBBM Network TV is always the right choice. Choose right.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam, and Veteran Dispatch and MP Deborah Green. Before we left, we were talking about, we see it so much. Sam was diagnosed probably 15 to 20 years after service. How many years after?
No, I went. Partner, remember my story after I tried
but after 9/11, yeah, but
after 9/11, yeah, it was a couple of years.
It was a couple of years. Mine was the same way, and Deborah, you're telling us it was 2015. So, you started in 1992, and we see that a lot. We see a lot of law enforcement being diagnosed 10, 12, 15 years later. But after, that's already so many compounded traumas. We could nip this in the bud if we had proper mental health treatment during our beginning of our careers. And it seems like dispatch, and I don't know if your commanding officers or if your people in dispatch are more in tune to your mental health than those that are outside. You have a little bit more structure.
We have more of that close proximity, so you can kind of tell if your partner's kind of having a bad day. You're right there, And luckily I had wonderful coworkers that on my shift that at least that were able to say, hey, something's not right after my surgery. And I did get that mental health treatment, but we need to try to get this conversation as a norm. From day one. Right. You are going to have problems. It's not an if, it's a when. Right. When is this going to happen to you? And get them the training that they need, the mental health training. So get them classes on depression, get classes on anxiety, classes on work stress and critical incident stress management from day one. And include that in the academies for your cops, for your firefighters, and also recommend that people get therapists right away within the first year. Right. And take the time to find that person that clicks with you, that is culturally competent and trauma informed, and get a relationship with that person. So when the poo does hit the fan, you have somebody that you trust that you can talk to.
Let me actually, you brought up Rescue 911, that the TV show.
Yes.
Right. Now, I never worked in a dispatch center, but like in Rescue 911, I have watched it. And when somebody's having a bad call, usually the shift leader or whatever they are, the captain, lieutenant, whatever rank they are, they'll walk behind that person. They'll put their hands on their shoulder. Does that really happen?
No.
I didn't think so.
I'm just saying because what
you're painting a false picture, so that's not helpful.
Well, and it's Hollywood. You have to understand Hollywood. Hollywood is there for the drama, not for the actual how it actually works.
That's what I'm saying. Do you have a shifter that's walking around looking, or they are in their office just blinders on?
Well, at our department, our supervisor was out on the floor doing our job with us. So along with whatever she needed to do. So, the only person that's not usually out on the floor is the dispatch manager, who is, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, does her thing with the admin. So you don't have somebody walking up to you and putting their hands on your shoulder and going, oh, you seem to have had a bad call. Yeah. I've only had that once where she said, hey, go take a walk.
Well, you know what? It's and John, I'm sure you're the same way. When we watch shows like that, my husband will tell you there's sometimes I'm screaming, especially if they try to recreate Secret Service. It's like, we have retired folks that can help you with the script, with the weapons and how we were trained to move and stuff like that. And when they go and make stuff up, I really in 2025, with the transparency, we need to tell the real stories. Yes. We need to represent all of these, kind of pseudo reality shows in the proper way.
Right.
so that people, because I think people will understand a lot more, and it will open the door for non-first responders to go, oh, you do that job. And can I ask you, is this real? And then it's opening a whole different dialogue. And then that person tells that person that tells that person.
Right.
So that society sees us not as robots and non-human entities that walk around and can clean up other people's poop, and make it look easy.
It definitely gives a false perception of what
it's
first
a crap
responders are
ton
going
of
through.
training. I mean, the work behind the scenes that goes into making a police officer, making a firefighter, making a dispatcher, whatever your first responder job is, making a soldier, it's a lot. And it's not like it is on TV. And I think it would be a good thing to well, I mean, we had the show Cops way back when. That was real.
Yes, it was.
And so, I want to touch on the call that it was kind of like your last call, like things went off the rails.
Yes, they did.
As you alluded to before. And what were some of the things that, like, that night that you went through? Because you had that call plus the compound, all the other calls.
So on my shift, we had 4 seasoned dispatchers and 1 trainee. I was working the busy radio, so I wasn't answering that many phone calls that night because we kind of had a precedence. But had the phones gotten busy, I would have picked them up. 1:30 in the morning, we got a call regarding people in a marijuana grow, prowlers. If you're familiar with California, we have personal grows that we can have up to 12 plants, I think. Maybe it's 24 now. And what we didn't know at the time was the cartel had gotten a hold of people to grow for them. So instead of having these big 1,000, 2,000 plantations that they used to have, they'll go around to people that are growing and have them grow extra for the cartels and then go pick up. So October is harvest season. And these people came to collect, and the caller didn't want to give them his stuff. So that's the background of this. So I send out the required amount of deputies, and I kind of got I call it dispatcher spidey sense. And I sent a 3rd unit out because it was in our South County. It was 30 minutes to an hour away for any other unit to get out there should they need help. So the more you send out there, the better coverage you have. I went on a break at that time because, it's a prowler call, no big deal. As I'm coming back in, I get a text that we need you back in here now. So I ran in, took the radio back from the person giving me my break, and heard shots fired. And we tried raising one of my deputies on the air, and he wasn't answering back. We tried the technique thinking that he was in a spot that if he talked, he would have gotten shot at, so we asked him just to click the mic, and there was nothing. During all of this, we had started fire, ambulance, more units. 2nd County that was south of us had units close, so they were coming up. Because it's shots fired, there's a whole other protocol that we were doing at the same time. Which everybody that's behind me and all my partners are doing all this while I'm focusing on the radio to get the information. I heard from them that they had pulled him out and put him in an ambulance. Thinking that he's in an ambulance, that he's okay. He hasn't passed away or anything. So I kind of shoved that back and continued on with the job at hand. We came to find out later he had passed at the hospital. They let me know because of circumstances. And so I was a mess.
How did they let you know, by the way? Did they make a phone call?
Well,
or did they come to dispatch?
So what happened, they're supposed to come to dispatch, but because of the circumstances that happened, a civilian was at the hospital and posted on Facebook that an officer had died.
Oh, no.
So the patrol lieutenant found this out, called us at dispatch to let us know so that we weren't surprised by anything that happened. So my lead came up and she told me, and it was just, I lost it. But I had a job to do, and I made sure that everybody out in the field did not know that he had passed away.
You know, you said something in your story, and I know that if people are like me, you've gone through a PTS journey. John, I'm sure you picked it up as well. You said my deputy.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it hurts so much.
Yeah. We were a really close department, and, you have shifts that you work with, and all the guys, and they were, a lot of them were the age of my kids. And so it kind of, I was Mama Bear and Sergeant was Papa Bear, and, whatever Mom said you did. So
there you go.
Yeah.
And then what did, after that, how did you get help? I mean, you separated from the job, and then, what did you do? Did you just pick up the phone and, dial therapists or?
Yeah, pretty much. So I had already been in therapy because of my heart surgery. So I called and made an emergency appointment with my therapist the next day. But we also had stress debriefs at work. So I kind of did that. I also had a friend who was in peer support. So after I was done with all of my stress debriefs and my therapy appointment, I called her and we had a good 2-hour talk, which was fabulous. But I continued on with my therapy. And had I not already been in therapy, I can only imagine what would have happened to me. Being in therapy, I was at rock bottom. And, how bad could it have gotten?
The therapist that you were going to, you said you were going to the therapist for the heart.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, the symptoms. Yeah.
The symptoms of the heart. Was that therapist trained with post-traumatic stress, or was this kind of like new to them?
The first one I went to, she was not, we didn't click. She didn't understand my job hierarchy. And so I kind of went through a few. The last one I finally found, I still have her after 5 years. So she's fabulous. And she doesn't care. She just lets me talk.
Well, it's finding somebody that gets the job. And we'll talk about the importance of finding a culturally competent therapist to help you through stuff like this when we come back from our last break. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back.
Rise and vibe with your new elevated morning ritual. Meet Rise by Frequency. Frequency charged nutrition. Rise is formulated with a blend of 7 different organic mushrooms, B vitamins, amino acids, and green coffee bean extract. Rise supports brain health, performance, and focus while enhancing mood, mental clarity, and energy. Enjoy the delicious mango lemonade flavor while giving your mind the nutrients it needs. Get charged up with Rise. Fuel your body and mind today.
Hey, you hear it every week. Rise and Vibe with me and John. And now is your chance to get on a 21-day Rise and Vibe challenge. It is super easy to do. You go to badgeofhonorhealth.com. We've got all the information right there. And when you order your Rise, whether you want to combine it with Source, which is the minerals that I mix together, it's delicious mango lemonade, no sugar, so it's keto friendly. You get that 21-day supply. Boost your mental performance, boost your brain health, boost your energy, and the all-important mental clarity, especially when you get to our ages, right, John? get through your day totally ready to go and full of being alert, great mood, and being motivated. Again, at badgeofhonorhealth.com, and start your 21-day challenge. Rise and vibe with me and John. Now back to the show.
All right.
All right. So, Deborah, when we were talking last, we were talking about, it took a couple of therapists until you found the one that you currently have. You still have her. How relieved were you when you walked in and she got you? She understood.
Oh, very much. She said, the first thing, because I was trying to explain to her the hierarchy. Not many people understand, chain of command and things like that. And she goes, I don't care about any of that. Just talk. And I was like, oh, thank God. But she's also gotten me into some trauma classes and things like that. I've also had brain spotting at a retreat.
Yeah.
A trauma retreat that my department sent me to, which was excellent. So, it's just nice to have that person. And I'm always trying to find something else to help stabilize me, because if you're just going, because I only see my therapist every 6 weeks because of my health insurance, finding something that's weekly is a big help. So I have an online support group that I go to, which really helps. And they have different days and times that you can attend. But having an extra support system, and, let's go try this and let's go try that, and just kind of stepping out of my comfort zone just to see if whatever that is will help me.
Yeah, it's putting your brain health recipe together, because not everybody's chocolate chip cookies are the same, right?
Right.
John likes nuts. I'm a purist. So, but it is, that's how you care for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I had gone into kind of a anxiety overdrive the last few months, since November. And I found a group called 220 that is for veterans and first responders, and they have a protocol. And after the second session, my anxiety was gone.
Yeah.
Well, we know Dr. Pam and the folks at 220 very well.
And, I can't suggest that more to people. Just stepping out of your comfort zone and doing something like that. I feel so much better now, and they're always available if I go back. So
yeah, you said something that bothered me a little bit, not on your part, but and this is where, when we talk about Dan Crenshaw and our politicians, every 6 weeks, because of your medical insurance, right? If our politicians really wanted to do something for our law enforcement heroes, free mental health care for the remainder of their life after retirement,
during and after. Yep.
Yes.
Because every 6 weeks, and like you said, you started getting overloaded. Now you have to wait 6 weeks before your insurance company will pay that again for you to go.
Well, on a regular basis. I can do an emergency, but the emergency one isn't guaranteed to be my therapist.
Right.
Exactly.
So you should be afforded for what you've done for your city, your state, what you've given back, your country.
Right.
You should be given that health care. You should have available mental health anytime you need it. If it's every single day, if it's twice a day, whatever it is, you should be afforded that. Just like every other law enforcement officer, firefighter, first responder out there, until they put them 6 feet under.
Absolutely. And I'm one of the lucky ones. I don't have the symptoms that some other people have. But I've also been consciously working on it too. So, but there's, and I know this is probably what you're, there's people worse off than I am, and they really need the help. But with things that are going on, things are getting cut, and all those services are getting cut, especially for veterans. And we need to do better.
Yeah. Well, trauma, like we always say, Jeff says, trauma is trauma is trauma.
Yes.
One person, the way one person's brain responds, you can't compare. Everybody deserves the help at the end of the day. You are doing a phenomenal job talking about and telling your story on so many different podcasts and different platforms. Almost every day I see a new post. How can people connect with you?
The easiest way is to go to my Instagram, and my handle is D911Green. I have a link tree on there that will link you up to my TikTok, my YouTube channel, my Instagram, and LinkedIn.
That's awesome.
And sorry, Facebook is for family and close friends.
No need to apologize. It's a love-hate relationship. But that's for those of you listening on your favorite podcast app, it's at D as in Delta 911 Green. That is Deb's handle, and you have access to reach out to her
and
all
feel free to. You can't message me on TikTok, but you can on all of my other platforms. And if you need help, message me. We will work together and find you something. Even if you just need me to listen, I can do that too.
Well, thank you, Deborah, so much for coming on, for telling your story, for opening people's eyes about dispatch. We've had lots of comments and folks tuning in. You guys, go and subscribe, especially you have YouTube. What's your YouTube?
My YouTube is Where the Sidewalk Ends.
Yep, go subscribe to Deb's channel. She's doing phenomenal stuff over there. Watch the videos. And Deb, thank you. Just thank you for being real, and thank you for coming on and telling your story. We really appreciate it. And yeah, we hope people reach out, and we will be in touch soon for sure.
Okay, great.
All right, have a great one.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
It just is so refreshing to get a clear understanding, number one, of like what dispatch does, and then number two, to also understand the differences in the departments, because the sheriff's department that she ended up with understood the mental health. She had the longer breaks. She had the ability to kind of decompress a little bit and help with the disassociation. And then they sent her on the retreat. Okay, so we've got two completely different operating systems, if you will.
Within the same state.
Within the same state. So California is the state. So yeah, that's for a different show.
Sam,
but the politicians everywhere, awesome that there's grant money and money to create wellness programs. You guys need to take the next step and make sure that all of our first responders, current and post retired, have access to free mental health help. It just has to be. It has to be. And 4 suicides in a span of 6 weeks is not acceptable at all. One is not acceptable. So Harris County, you've been in the news for a whole lot of stuff lately. You need to remove heads from your rear ends and get your poop together, because more people are going to die unless you get on this and do something. Dan Crenshaw.
Sam, when we did our workshop, remember we had those dispatchers in there, and you brought up a good point earlier in the show, how the dispatchers are more connected to each other. And I remember when we did that workshop, and we had like 6 or 7 dispatchers, and when we took that break, they all walked outside and they hugged each other.
Yeah.
Something you don't see our law enforcement or our first responders doing because of, I guess, ego or they don't want to show their true colors. But with the dispatchers, they do actually, because they work so closely together, they have a tight bond, and that's good. Yeah. They really need that, because that is a stressful job.
Absolutely. And speaking of workshops, we've got our next workshop coming up on Friday, May 2nd. Open to all active law enforcement, including dispatchers. How do you get enrolled in that? badgeofhonor.org. It's a pop-up on our home screen. It'll pop up whether you want it to or not. click on it, get yourself a ticket. Because of a huge donation and grant from our partners at Carry the Load, we are able to do these at no cost. And I want to also give a huge shout out to Carry the Load. They are partners in the continuum of health to provide the funds so that first responders can attend workshops and do other things and receive mental health help at no cost, or a series of appointments at no cost through the different organizations. So we are just one organization out of 50 that are nonprofit partners. If you go on our website, again, abadgeofhonor.org, you scroll down to our partners and resources, you will see Carry the Load's logo. Click on it. It will tell you about Carry the Load. It'll also tell you how you can get involved, make a direct donation to our campaign going on right now for the all-important Continuum of Care program. So the money will go into Carry the Load to be dispersed out to our veterans and our first responders afterwards. You can also become a member of our team. So again, the best way to find out is at badgeofhonor.org. You can also contact us. Just call us directly with any questions that you have. And, the kind of programming that you use to support yourself to keep this fresh is really important. So after we sign off here, join us for steak night. And what do I mean by steak night? It's news you can chew on. So pop on over to obbmnetwork.tv. You can sign up and become, subscribe to that, or just go on however you stream TV, go to the OBBM network. You can download the Roku or whatever apps and go to obbmnetwork.tv because we got there's some excellent programming. So, stay on OBBM network for the news right after us. To all of our first responders out there, you got a group of prayer warriors that are praying for your safety every day. Thank you for caring for our communities. To our veterans out there, thank you so much for fighting the good fight that allows John and I to do a show like this every single week. And to our active duty personnel who continue to deploy across this globe, we're keeping you in our prayers as well. Thank you for keeping our shores safe. John, take us home.
To the family, friends, and coworkers of all those Harris County first responders, our thoughts and prayers are with you. And if you need anything, you can always reach out to a Badge of Honor. To the upper chiefs and politicians, now's the time to make change. It's right in front of you. Do not let it happen again. Peace.
See you next week, everybody.
A Badge of Honor podcast is produced for the OBBM Network podcast and protected under copyright law. For content permissions, please submit your request to abadgeofhonor.com on the content page. For OBBM Network programming information, please call 214-714-0495.